Hey everyone, this is a clip from the regular exclusive podcast. If you like what you hear, then subscribe for more and find our podcast anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's summertime. With summertime comes the most important week of the year for many people, and that is Shark Week. So Renee, I know this is a big part of your life.
It is.
So we decided that in honor of Shark Week, we would watch the shark movie, Jaws. And we'd also just talk about shark movies as a whole. So
and watch them. There's some that we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch some more.
I didn't get that memo. So I watched.
You watched two, but like there's at least 2 to 3 more I think you should watch.
I've seen a couple of these movies. I just did not recently rewatch them. But
well, that's what we're gonna do.
Jaws, I know, is very near and dear to your heart. What is Jaws and why is it so important to you?
Okay, so Jaws is like my favorite movie of all time. I didn't see it until I was like 20, I don't think. Like I didn't see it for a long time, but like I knew about it, but I'd never seen the movie. And then
so like your parents never showed you Jaws?
No, they showed me like Jurassic Park when I was 5 and I like had nightmares forever. And same with like Jumanji. I don't think I could have handled Jaws. Like that would have traumatized me a lot. And I was already like super scared of sharks. And before I even saw Jaws, like whenever I would go in the ocean, I would hear the music because I knew the music and I would just picture a shark around me. Yeah, it's so good. So effective. It makes me stressed out. And but then when I saw it when I was 20, I had a dream that night that like I was like on the boat tilting down, about to get eaten by the shark, like Quint at the end. Yeah. And it was, and I owned a waterbed at the time. So it was very upsetting. But also like, I loved it. And it was like, I feel like what really made me turn around and like, even though I'm a scaredy cat, I now love horror movies. And by the end of that year, I feel like I was watching Jaws like every night just to fall asleep, which is so weird, but it's a comfort movie for me now. And I watch them. I do a marathon every New Year's Day. Like it was on one year and now I just do it. It's a great way to start the year. And I can't, especially during the summer, and Shark Week, Shark Summer is my opinion. I watch it way too much, but you know what? I can't get enough. It's just something about shark movies that, I mean, none of them come close to Jaws, but it started such a great trend. And I love this little subgenre of horror. I'm excited to talk about it.
I would agree. I don't think any shark movie does not come anywhere near close to Jaws. So
that's why they've never remade it.
Renee, I know you spend a lot of time in IMDb. So what's the synopsis? What's the plot of?
Yeah. Well,
of Jaws?
Basically, this is straight from IMDb. When a killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Long Island, it's up to a local sheriff, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down, which I love. That's a great little tagline. But, you know, I know you told me that you like actually write your own when you describe the movie. And I feel like pretty lazy that I don't do that. But also when I saw this one, I was like, that's pretty great.
So I haven't watched the movie since I was a kid.
You saw it when you were a kid?
My parents, they're not people that made me watch really good movies. They would argue that they did, but that's based off what they think are really good movies. Like I watched Braveheart when I was 7 years old, so I knew what prima nocta was as an adolescent.
Good knowledge to have. I'm sure that comes in handy all the time.
Yeah, it's really useful, especially on trivia night. So I know I watched Jaws, but I watched it too young before I could remember. I feel like you watched it.
Didn't remember it as a kid. Like, I would literally have had a heart attack.
Maybe, I don't know. I just wasn't.
You're not scared of the ocean? That doesn't scare you?
No, I'm not.
You're not scared of the ocean? You don't know what's in there. Nothing. I mean, everything could be in there. Things we've never seen.
But I don't live on a coastal city. We're fine. I'm not going to do
That's the thing. I'm never going to do it. But it's like in my dreams, I'll have a dream where I'm like fucking in this situation, like a moron, which I would never. That's why my dad's always trying to convince me to go scuba diving. Come on, you're missing out on the ocean. How can you give it up? I'm like, are you kidding? I think I would give anything up to not be eaten by a shark. You know, I'm perfectly fine not going in the beach. Last time I went to Hawaii, my sister made me like get on top of her, get on her back, and she like she swam me out to make me feel better because I wouldn't leave the shallow, and I was like, I'm really stressed out, and I let her do it, and I was like, at least I'm taking her with me if a fucking shark comes through. But that's the closest I got, and it was only also because I was drinking.
Well, Renee, in a horror movie situation, your default is to kill yourself.
I'm drowning myself in the first scene of Jaws. Yeah, definitely. So anytime a shark shows up, I'm drowning myself instantly.
So it makes sense that in your dreams, you can't do that. So you have to live out the experience.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because I know in real life that I would just take the easy way out. And it's like 100% I would. Like I was just watching The Descent, and she like the last chick is left there and all the things are coming in, and she's got this blade and she's like holding it up like, I don't care that there's 80 of you, I'm going to fight. And I'm like, just slit your own throat, bitch. I mean, how hard is that? That's going to be 10 times easier than getting ripped apart by fucking weirdo creatures. Are you kidding? The other scenes where they were eating people, I was like, dude, this is gnarly. I am not going that way. Same with the zombie apocalypse. I'm shooting myself instantly. I also saw the Anaconda again, and Danny Trejo is in the opening scene. Shocking.
The Danny Trejo.
Yeah, really young. I had no idea. He's like running from the snake. You don't see it. And he climbs up on top of this like really tall tower thing. And the snake's still coming apparently. And he has a gun. And I was like, oh God, what do you think you're going to do with that? You're going to kill it? And he just shoots himself in the head. And I was like, now this is a movie I can get behind.
My hero.
That is, my hero. That finally I felt like really represented. like I felt like that was really cool. I've never seen that in a movie because people usually like will try and kill all the zombies coming for him, and I'm like, they can't fucking die, you idiot. Kill yourself. Why?
I just learned that if we ever do like a Hall of Fame rankings of horror movie characters, Danny Trejo is in your Hall of Fame.
He's in my Hall of Fame just for that.
He's the one that just eliminated himself, took himself out of the equation.
I mean,
that's the Renee Award.
That's
Take
my
yourself
award
out of the equation.
Best ever final person in a horror movie who dies instantly. Sorry, the opposite of the final whatever. It just felt very important to me, and I was like, wow, I think I just always have missed the beginning of Anaconda because I would have remembered that was amazing. Nobody does that in Jaws, and I mean, come on. I want to hear what you think this movie's about.
I'm really glad that I rewatched this, so thank you for choosing this movie because this movie's awesome.
I'll always choose this
movie's great. My overview of the movie is a small beach town is terrorized by a shark or a greedy mayor or a crazy fisherman. Either way, the sheriff has to kill it or them to save the town.
Basically. Yeah, they're all fucked in the head for sure. All three of those characters. I don't know about the shark. He's just being a shark. But
there's a real competition of who the bad guy is in this movie. And
like Quint is a good guy, but also like he's a total, like I really hate him once he like on purpose fucks the boat over. Like, what was your move here, man? So, why would you want to get trapped here with this fucking thing?
So I've been waiting to tell you this. Okay, this has been in my mind. The hero of the movie is obviously the sheriff.
Yeah, obviously. I love Roy Scheider in this movie. He's perfect.
I think the bad guy of the movie is the mayor.
100%. He's like every Republican right now. Oh, I don't care that there's a shark out there that's going to eat everybody. We're losing money and we need to make money.
That's was a boating accident.
Yeah. It's like, oh, just lying about everything. I mean, have you heard this from the Ghostbusters, like the female version, where Kristen Stewart is trying to warn the mayor of New York about the ghost thing? And she's like, don't be the mayor in Jaws, just please. And I'm like, yes, because it's so true. It's like a lot of politicians are fucking like that. And the mayor is like the best villain because he's just a total dick. And it's like, fuck, there's like a bunch of people dying. Yeah. What are you doing? Like, how many do you need? It's just like I want these guys hung up by their Buster Browns for like spray painting. It's just like, he's ridiculous.
And I like that one line where after the second attack, when everyone's on the beach and then they're in the hospital and the sheriff's like, you're going to sign this. You're going to do the right thing. And he's like traumatized. He's like, my children were on the beach. It's like, no shit. everyone was on the beach. All the children were on the beach.
Hey,
Like,
you know what? There was a fucking guy in the water that got eaten because of you. Like, and I love when he's like going to that like family and he's like, go in the water. And it's like, okay, kids, let's go. And I'm like, why? Why would you? I don't care what political leanings or I need or support. I'm not fucking walking into any water where a kid just got murdered and we all saw it. Like, I'm sorry. I love it. I think I'm more upset though about the dog death than the kids, honestly. If I could go back in time and save one of them, it's Pippin the dog. For sure.
I want to come back to the dog death.
Yeah.
But
thank God it's off screen.
I do find it hard to believe that there would be a bunch of people on a beach. They're like, I want to go to the beach, but then it takes a politician to say, get in the fucking water. Like,
yeah.
like even if there's something that happened, they're like, you shouldn't go in the water. Like, get in the water.
5 minutes before that, wasn't everyone at a town meeting screaming about how, like, my favorite line, there's so many good lines in this movie that are just so ridiculous, but there's one where it's like when he's like, we're closing the beach, and then the beaches, and then he's like, the mayor's like, only for 24 hours, and then that person in the background goes, 24 hours is like 3 weeks, and I'm like, who the fuck are you, and what are you doing? What are you talking about? To be fair though, like, this is the same thing as fucking COVID, right? It's saying we need to shut things down, and people are saying, fuck you, I don't care, I want to go out there and get COVID, basically. I don't care, I want to go on the beach. But then, yeah, I don't understand why they're all like scared of it. I don't know, but I love that part. I love all the different fishermen when they're talking. They all have weird things. Oh, what? Like, just weird fucking lines. I can't get enough of how, like, they got a lot of everyman kind of people that it all feels like very believable for like a little small town. Like, everybody's just very specific kind of person.
I want to come right back to this conversation, but just so we don't get too far on a tangent, I want to finish my list. So the hero's the sheriff, the villain's the mayor, the monster is the shark, is Jaws.
Yeah. Well, duh.
Yep. Hot
take alert.
That's that. I'm just speeding through it. Quint, Captain Quint is the scariest character in this movie.
He's nuts. He's literally
insane. Like,
and this is what I was hoping you'd bring up, because he's so good, but also just like so fucking nuts. I'm like, is he just like that in real life? This guy died at like 50 years old because he drank and smoked so much.
The only person that's close to that level of crazy, Roy Scheider's wife in the movie.
Okay, yeah, I really have issues with her too. Wait till you see Jaws 4. She's in that one, and she's crazy because she's like, the shark's coming to kill me in Jamaica, and it fucking does. It's ridiculous. She's so weird in that movie, and she has a romance with Michael Caine. It's the strangest fucking movie, but she's like, oh, the kid, he's just in the boat in the water. It's like, oh, he's fine, and then she sees the book with the picture of the shark attacking a little boat, and she's like, get out of the water. And it's like, you didn't know that sharks fucking attack boats? Like, what do you think? Like, just get him out of the water, dumb bitch. Like, how did you just learn what sharks were? Like, she didn't know. I don't know.
I've been meaning to ask you. So the first scene of her is she's drunk while the husband is researching sharks, and she's like, you want to fool around?
Yeah.
And like, so it's like, okay, our introduction to the character is that she's drunk, so clearly her character is an alcoholic. And then
I don't think that's the case.
I mean, she's at least crazy.
No, it's just that one. I mean, that one scene she is drunk, but the rest of it, I almost feel like they might have filmed the book plot and then changed it and maybe cut some scenes, because in the book, I think she is an alcoholic, and she's also having an affair with Hooper in the book.
As someone who's not read the book,
I haven't read the book.
And I don't want to generalize, she's an alcoholic. Okay. The first thing we see of her,
I trust your hot takes.
She's an alcoholic. It's not hot. It's very room temperature. It's the rule of cinema. The way we introduce a character is who they are. Okay. So yeah. She's a horny, drunk broad in the 70s. And
okay, wow, I like this.
So I support her.
It's better than I think what she really is in the movie, honestly. She seems kind of annoying, but also like, I get it. You know, she should be fucking worried about him.
The one thing that I wanted to ask you about is when the first shark attack happens, they say we're going to shut down the beach for a day, and then they open the beach and they're like monitoring
No,
the
that's
whole
the
thing.
second one. That's after the kid.
Well,
After the
whatever.
first one, they cover it up and say it was like a boating accident. Remember?
Sure.
And believe
Yes.
me, I
Well,
am
when
correct.
they open up the beach. When
Yeah,
they
that's
open
for
up
the
beach.
July 4th, and that's after the little boy died too.
For the audience, Renee is a historian on this movie, so just like all.
I think if
all
anyone
nitpicks.
hasn't seen Jaws recently or a lot, they're with me.
There's a difference between seeing and studying Jaws. Okay.
It's not like I study it on purpose. I just can't help it. It's like I can't.
But yeah, so yeah, when they open the beach back up and they're all monitoring and they all have the radios and they're doing the thing, but the main guy is on the beach because he's scared of the water. They have the fake shark attack, and then everyone's screaming, and then like he turns and he sees his wife by like the snack stand, and she mouths something to him.
She says, "I've got Sean." I know all the words to this movie.
Oh, that's what she says.
And she points to like the sun, but he's not even there. He's like way far down the beach, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, crazy.
Well,
whatever.
She was lying because she was drunk, as we've established is her character. Yeah. I thought she said, "I've got churros," and I'm like, what?
No. Do you know I have captions on for everything I watch just because it's easier.
This was a movie that I was like, I should have watched this with subtitles.
Yeah, you should. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I'm sorry, what are they talking about? Because it's also like from a different time. This is 1975. They didn't really enunciate or make sure that what they were. I mean, granted, not that they do in all movies nowadays, but
I would say it's actually better. The audio editing is like turned up to 11. Like everything everyone says, I'm like, is this ADR? Are they like
you can hear it all really clearly,
recording all the audio separately?
Probably. I mean, honestly, this is like one of those movies that like when you hear about the production, you're like, it's a miracle that this movie is amazing. Because everything went wrong that could go wrong. Like, and they filmed this all in Cape Cod too. The crazy part is it might be the only shark movie that actually has been filmed on the fucking ocean. Like literally majority of them are all filmed in like a tank or somewhere else. You know, they're not really shooting in the exact location, which makes this movie just feel a lot more real, even though the shark is fake.
Well, Renee, the reason for that is pretty obvious. I can't believe you don't know this, that sharks are notoriously hard to work with on camera.
Okay. I knew you were getting wound up to like say something to make fun of me. So I'm ready for it. But you're right. You're right. They are. I saw the real Bruce. That's the name of the shark, by the way. That's what they called him. He named him after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. His
name is Bruce or the Bruce?
The shark's name is Bruce.
Oh, okay. I thought you said the shark's name is the Bruce.
And I'm sorry. That's awesome. His name is Bruce, and I saw the like real Bruce is what I was saying at Universal Studios, and I freaked out because it was still like, I mean, it's like I don't know why, but like there's an image of like Steven Spielberg in black and white, like in the shark's mouth, like posing like as a joke from when he was directing back then. And it scares me. Like I couldn't even lay in the fake shark mouth because I'd be so terrified of the animatronic. Like, I don't know why it would freak me out, but it's freaky looking. It looks so obviously fake, but they don't show it so much. So it's totally fine. It holds up.
That's the best part of the movie. But real quick, last thing on the wife. If they ever remake this movie, which I hope they don't, but if they ever do, cast Toni Collette to be the wife.
Yeah. Totally, right?
Her in Hereditary, amazing. She was so good at it.
Yeah, she totally could be. Honestly, that's a great idea. But it's funny because if you like have so much to say about the wife, you should really watch Jaws 2 and Jaws 4 because she's in both of them. And the cop is actually in Jaws 2, and that's why I think it's the best sequel. It's really good.
So wait, hold on. The cop is in Jaws 2, but
with his wife, and then the wife is in Jaws 4. Yeah.
So the cop dies, or does she leave him?
No, he's dead. At that point, she says he has a heart attack because of the shark. And I was like, what? And then the son gets killed by the shark at the beginning, and he's like a police chief in fucking Amity, the youngest son. It's all about the kids. All the movies follow this family. It's ridiculous. It's like I feel like they missed the point. We like the shark, not the family. The character of Mike, like the oldest son, he's in all 4 movies. The character, not the same actor. But like he gets recast every movie. In the 3rd movie, he's played by Dennis Quaid, and he works at SeaWorld with his brother, Sean, the younger one. And they work at SeaWorld, and then they catch a great white, and then its mom is Jaws and breaks in, and now Jaws is in SeaWorld.
Oh, sorry. The way you said that, I was like, they catch a great white
They
at
do.
SeaWorld.
No, they bring it into
That's
SeaWorld.
okay.
Sorry.
They
They bring it near. It's like it's like a SeaWorld where it's like it has this little gate that opens to the ocean because that's a fucking great idea. And then they capture great white. It's this whole thing. And it's 3D from like the 80s. It's really bad. But
Oh,
Dennis
nice.
Quaid plays it's like the two boys, and then in the fourth one, it's like the oldest son works in Jamaica doing something in the ocean crazily. I would never go near the ocean if I survived any of these movies. And then the mom comes down there after the other son is killed and says the sharks come in for the family. It's like The Godfather or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, I want to talk about a good movie today. So
Yeah,
Jaws.
we'll stick to just Jaws. But just so you know, it gets crazier.
Okay, so like rewatching this last night, it's been the first time I watched it in a while. I was expecting this movie to be this is a fun older movie.
Mm-hmm.
This was a great movie. Like
Amazing.
you've been 100% right with your obsession with this movie. Like
I know.
I watched it. I'm like, I'll probably watch this movie in 6 months. Like this is a great movie.
Start to finish, it's amazing. There's never a dull moment. Like if it's everything just works. I feel
there's very little fat in this movie.
Yeah, very little.
Like,
they cut out a ton of bad stuff from the book, apparently, because everyone says the Jaws book sucks. Steven Spielberg cut out all the bad shit, which was that Hooper is like having an affair with Chief Brody's wife the whole movie, throughout the whole story. And then the mayor,
college kid is hooking up
Richard
with the
Dreyfuss.
wife.
Yeah. And I was like, Jesus. And then also like the mayor's being blackmailed by the mob, and that's why he's keeping the beaches open. And then Hooper dies when he's in the shark cage in the book, because he's also like, I'm assuming because he's more of a bad guy in that one, because he's cheating with the wife. And then in the ending they changed, thank God, because in the book apparently the shark is like coming for them, and it just gets tired and dies. It's like it just gets tired and fucking dies, and its heart stops and it just sinks, and that's it. And Spielberg was like, I'm sorry, but we have to change that. And then the author got all upset, apparently. So I was like, that's fucking hilarious. I've never read it because of those four things I just said are like, okay, yeah, it's not like reading Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. That's still a great book. It's like, this is like the movie it's one of the rare ones where the movie's a lot better than the book.
You know how I know the movie is so much better than the movie?
You mean the book? You said the movie's so much better than the movie. I loved it.
But yes, the movie is so much better than the movie. I didn't even know there was a book.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't even know this was an adaptation.
Yeah.
I thought this was an original movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you've just described the book, I'm like, glad I never knew that.
It was like a summer like book that came out and like literally hit like I don't know if they bought it like right as it like got popular. It was like a summer book, and just when they were on stands and people would just see them and actually just read it.
Airplane books.
Yeah, and then it got really popular, and then Spielberg like was brought on with Universal because they snagged up the rights really quick. Kind of like with I think Jurassic Park, similar situation. Although there's a bunch of like studios fighting over it, but similar thing. And they bring in the Spielberg. He just nails it. The Spielberg. I mean, he's like a legend. I just obsessed with him.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a whole podcast just on Spielberg.
I could do 18 podcasts on Steven Spielberg. But yeah, I was gonna ask you this actually about Jaws. Now that we're talking about it, do you consider it like a horror movie after watching it again? Because it's kind of like an adventure movie, but I still consider it like a horror movie overall.
I think I would consider it a horror movie in the same way that Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie. It's probably a thriller.
But it's also like there's like a literal guy eaten alive on camera. I know it's fake, but I'm like, it's like pretty like graphic. It's like pretty disturbing.
That was one of the things with this movie I was shocked by. When I started the movie, I'm like, this is a rated R movie. Mm-hmm. And then I see up in the top corner, PG, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. What? And then as I watch, I'm like, the whole time I'm just like, this is a PG movie?
I know. It's shocking. They changed it. This isn't the movie that got like PG-13, but like, I don't know if that was around. Like eventually they get there, but this at least should have been PG-13. It should have been R, honestly. But back then there's a lot of PG stuff that you're like, wow, that's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Like adjusting for inflation, mm-hmm. If The Conjuring is rated R without any nudity or hardly any swearing or gore.
Yeah.
Jaws in the 70s should have been rated R.
Yeah.
Adjusting for inflation. Like when I watched it, I was like, this is more hardcore than some R-rated movies I've seen. The screaming in this movie is top notch.
Top notch, great screams, because he even mentions it at one point when he does the Indianapolis story, and he says, "Oh," then you hear that terrible high pitched screaming, and you're like, yes, because that's the most important part, because it's like that's like a real scream. I feel like it's not like a fake scream. It's like that's when you know it's like real.
Yeah,
and they really nail it.
They're just pulling it out of their gut.
Well, the chick in the first beginning part, she's on like a pulley system that's like attached to her, and she's being yanked around. And she did say that it like did hurt her, and that she was like, it was easy. Like it wasn't like so bad, but like there was a point where she was like, it was pretty easy to like scream and stuff. But then sometimes they were like, oh my God, we should probably stop it, because she's probably upset, but she was just doing a great job. But she did say it was kind of like uncomfortable and like hurt. And it was kind of hard work, and she's being thrown around. So it was pretty easy to just start screaming.
Yeah.
I was like, I would instantly be able to be in that mindset if I'm being thrown around the water. I would picture something underneath the water.
That opening scene is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
So good.
I didn't know that part about her being hooked up to stuff and being pulled around. The first thing that pops to my mind of somehow being able to relate to it is I've gone skydiving a couple times, and when you pull the chute, like your body gets yanked up, and it kind of hurts.
Yeah, like attached to something, and then like they're like pulling it over by the camera, and they're like literally moving her around. Yeah. And I guess the original like storyboards had like the shark being shown and like jumping out of the water and getting her or whatever, but it was like obviously they couldn't do any of that, and it works 10 times better.
The lack of seeing the shark is the most incredible thing about this movie, especially like thinking about it in the 70s. But before we go to that topic, because that's a whole subject, I just want to say,
I have so much to say.
No. So I just want to say this real quick. Opening scene, the guy who is drunkenly chasing the girl, dude's a legend. Okay.
I mean, lucky guy.
They don't even say a word to each other. They make eye contact. She runs away.
He takes off. Yeah.
He chases after her. She could be running in fear.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's down with it. And then she confirms that she's down with it. So he's super lucky, first off.
And then even luckier 10 seconds later.
And then he tries to take his clothes off as he's running. He's just drunk out of his mind.
And trips and falls.
And then trips and falls. And she's still on board with the idea. She apparently is not drunk.
Turned on by the ocean, I think, more than him, because she doesn't even realize that he's like still over there like dying.
I think she's turned on by drunkenness, which is odd.
Okay, but he's not even like, it's so bad, the acting of being drunk. I'm not drunk. Hey, like just the way that he's doing
it's the 70s.
Oh, I understand, but I just have to point it out, because it's just every time it bothers me. But I love that movie. It's
as I was watching this movie, I'm like, this is where camp was born. Like,
it is totally
like. So he's chased after, like trying to take his clothes off. She gets in the water. He gets all of his clothes off, almost all of his clothes off. And then he is so exhausted that he just passes out on the beach. And she's down to clown, and then gets eaten by a shark. And he's sleeping through the whole thing. Legend.
So he just wakes up in the morning there, right? And then he's like, oh, she just left. And he just reports it to the cops, because he's like, if I report it, maybe I won't be as suspicious. But then if I was the cop, I'd be like, he's like, hey, I reported it, didn't I? I'd be like, I don't know. Did you? Where is she?
He's like, what do you remember that night? He's like, I was pretty wasted. Like,
so good. It's just like, it's so great. But yeah, I just feel like I love this movie so much. It's so good. I feel like I wanted to also tell you, because you brought up Robert Shaw, but him and Richard Dreyfuss, like Hooper, they didn't get along on set at all. So it like really worked for their characters, because they like didn't like each other. But so I don't know if you remember exactly the scene where Hooper's like on the boat deck, and he's like doing like something with the ropes, and there's like a bunch of like water splashing up at him. Robert Shaw was like holding the hose off camera, like fucking spraying him like crazy, like really hard, and like all over, like just in the face, and like trying to get to him. And he was just always trying to fuck with him, apparently, on set. And he would call him a pussy and tell him he had to, like, if he wanted to prove he wasn't a pussy, that he should climb the mast of the boat and like jump off. And Spielberg was like, no, like he will have to pay if he gets injured. Like, fuck. But I was just like, that's fucking hilarious because Robert Shaw sounds like literally Quint in real life, is what I'm picturing. And he did that whole Indianapolis scene wasted the first time because he thought this is going to be good because I'm drinking in the scene. And they wasted a whole day of shooting because he couldn't fucking do it. And so the next day he was totally sober and he nailed it all in one take. And I was like, that's pretty nuts.
That reminds me of some of the stuff from James Caan on Misery.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, same kind of a thing that they were just talking about. But yeah,
I feel like what you're saying though is it really just speaks to Steven Spielberg to use that, because that's the whole kind of tension between those characters.
It's great.
It's like old school versus new school, and then they have that one scene of them showing each other scars and stuff. And
like, I love that though.
Here, see my leg. It's like, are you guys gonna kiss?
I'll drink to your leg. All right, so we'll drink to our legs. And then they sing that song, and then he tells the Indianapolis monologue, which is just horrifying because it's true.
Yeah,
I see the documentary I watch it every year on Shark Week. It's incredible because it's so horrifying. I can't believe it. Probably don't have any more people who are still living from that. I again, that's drown myself instantly scenario.
So I mean, on Robert Shaw, I said earlier, he's the scariest character in this entire movie.
He's more unpredictable than the shark, I think.
Like,
that thing, it's coming for blood, at least.
There's so many scenes in this movie that, like, if I had not already seen it and kind of known that it's about the shark, even like 3/4 into the way into the movie, I'm like, is he the bad guy?
Yeah, there's really not a lot of shark.
There's just like, he says weird things like, what's that? You know this movie front and back. So what's that one line he says? As
here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was like, who says that?
And then he says, like, here lies the body of Mary Lee. She died at the age of 103. For 15 years, she kept her virginity. Not a bad record for this vicinity. And then he's like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And he said that to the wife.
He's the reason I was like, I need to turn the subtitles on.
He does, but it's
great. Like Peaky Blinders. It's like they're speaking English, but I don't understand a word you're saying.
I think this movie has one of the best like openings. It's like scary because it's a shark. No one can do better than it. But we should briefly talk about some other shark movies.
Well, real quick,
before you get into the next one.
Because I know. We obviously do research before we get into this, and looking at if you Google shark movies and the movies that come up, it is shocking how far the gap is between any shark movie and Jaws.
Very true. Good point. Because they can't capture the magic. It's the same thing with Jurassic Park, I think. Plus, it's also fucking Spielberg. I mean, Spielberg's not directing, Shark Night 3D, although that'd be sick. And I do like Shark
way
Night.
Better.
I mean, wait till you see it, man.
I mean, we're going to go through this list. I want to hear it. But I know right now the thing that's going to come up between all of them, the more it ages, the more Steven Spielberg just like seems like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't show the shark. The horror was not the shark itself. It was all the stuff around it. All the movies that if you Google shark movies, the sharks look terrible.
Yeah, because they have to look terrible. Deep Blue Sea at least had like some practical effects. I'll give them credit. The Requiem, the one that just came out this year, is the worst effects. It literally looks like it's the lowest budget I've ever seen, and that thing's on like Hulu. It's insane. Out of all the other shark movies, I feel like that's where they come into problems, because when they're more modern movies, the like inclination is to use special effects. But then like there's also like older. There's not really that many old shark movies besides like the Jaws sequels, and they all basically use the same shark, which is kind of cool. But I'm also like, these sharks are all the same mechanical shark fucking from the first one. Like the second one, it's exactly the same thing in Amity Island again. It's the same thing, but just with teenagers stranded on their little like sailboats or something. It's the same kind of a deal, but the same shark. Then we get to newer ones and they all do like visual effect sharks. Only one movie on this list has real sharks in it. And that's why it's the best shark movie since Jaws, which is The Reef. It's an Australian horror film. And all of the shark footage is real sharks. And it's great. They don't show anything with they show people like with blood around them, like in the water and getting like pulled under. And like they show the shark coming to attack and like swimming right next to them. But it's like it's the same as Jaws, where it kind of like lets you imagine that, but it has a similar plot to like Open Water, where there's people, their sailboat sinks, and then they have to swim to the island they were heading to in open water for like a day and a half in order to get it. And the shark slowly picks them all off one by one. And it's like really freaky. And it's so good because it's like a real shark, right? The footage looks great. And the main guy who like knows the waters, he has like goggles. So he'll like look down and like use them to like look around on the surface of the water. And it's amazing because it gives you the same feeling as Jaws.